Thank you for joining us tonight. I know we're down to the final few days. Everybody is tired of talking politics, including me, and that's a surprise. But I spent an hour last week, an hour and a half, in a Zoom meeting about a project here in Sacramento, in Oak Park, my own neighborhood, about 2 blocks away, about Aggie Square. Now, my libertarian principles, I don't particularly care about the project. It's fine by itself. It's UC Davis property. If they have the money and they want to build a project, they should be allowed to build a project. The problem comes in when it's not just UC Davis and their developers. They want a special tax district, mostly of their own property, so a percentage of that tax district goes to them, and they can spend it on infrastructure and other aspects to help get the project kickstarted. And some of that money, they say, will go to affordable housing. Kind of. They say it will go to an affordable housing trust fund. The problem with these kind of trust funds is they often get spent in subsidized housing and not actually housing where rent is actually low. And what happens, and we're going to use some examples, the numbers aren't real, they're used for an example. It's like, say they build a building and they say, we're apartments rented $1,000 a month. People can't afford $1,000 a month. We need some of those for low income. Okay, we're going to subsidize the rent, half the rent on 20%. So the rent's only $500 a month. But it's not. It's really $1,000 a month. Half of it's subsidized. So when the neighborhood average of rents are still $1,000. And so when rents around the neighborhood are based upon that $1,000, not based upon 20% at $500. And so it actually raises the rent costs for everybody around them. And they're counting on an increase in property values to help pay for all this. But we've seen the disaster that increased property values have caused. Cost of living has skyrocketed. That's all based upon the skyrocket cost of housing, the skyrocketing cost of property. Everything comes off of that. It's not just your payment, your monthly mortgage payment or your monthly bank payment. It's your insurance goes up because it's now worth more. So the insurance company has to pay more, which means they have to get more money from you. Your taxes go up, which means businesses and services have to charge you more to cover their costs. And so the cost of literally everything goes up. We call that gentrification, but it's just what happens when we focus on property values without even paying attention to the cost of those property values. Stable property values are great. A slow, moderate increase is workable. But this love affair we have with the skyrocketing values and the churn that creates, it's great for the tax collector, but it's bad for our communities. The money we get back doesn't pay us back for the money we send. You know, we spend a dime, we get back a nickel. That's not in our favor. Creating special favors for UC Davis, who already has everything they need. They've got plenty of money. Why do they need a special district? Why do they need taxpayer credits? Tax subsidies. They need tax subsidies to provide affordable housing. Well, we wouldn't need to provide affordable housing if they didn't deliberately make housing expensive. Ask your city councilman, how much does it cost per apartment building just to get the permits? How much does it cost from the time you envision a project to the time you can actually start digging? Right? How much does that time take? Because time is money. You have loans to pay. You need to build that building and get people in it. If it takes 3-4 years to get a project started, that's money small developers don't have. That's why we only have large developers. Because small developers can't take years to develop a project. They need to envision the project, buy the property, and get it building as soon as possible. And our bureaucracy simply cannot do that. And this project has been shepherded behind closed doors, designed for manufactured consent. This is the third meeting I've observed, and every single time it's been like a timeshare sales job. I don't know how many of you have been to a timeshare sales job, but it's kind of sleazy. They're taking input, but you can tell it's not going to matter. We were the other night, they were talking about the EIFD. And what they said is, it will get through. Oh, it will happen. It was already a done deal. No matter what we said at the meeting, no matter what anybody said at the city council meeting last night, it was a done deal long before it got to this point. That's the problem. If UC Davis wants to build a damn project on their property, I don't care. But if the political process is corrupt in getting that project approved, that I care about. If it's not transparent, that I care about. If you're giving taxpayer credits to a quasi-government agency, which UC Davis Medical Center is, that I care about. How things get done matter. And how this Aggie project is getting forced down our throats. How these redesigns of Stockton Boulevard and Broadway are getting rammed down our throats by people who live outside the district, outside these neighborhoods, is a problem. I don't want my neighborhood to be like Midtown. Midtown's fine for people who live in Midtown. I don't want it here. And we shouldn't have it forced on us by people who live in other neighborhoods. The Aggie Square project is a project for Elmhurst and Oak Park. The rest of the city really shouldn't have much say. And talking about prioritizing spending, the annex that they are rebuilding, the plans for a new annex down at the Capitol were released. They're talking somewhere between $700 and $1 billion for a new office building and visitor center. And they want to have it done by 2023 or something like that. A relatively short time frame. Is now really the time to be building a posh office for our legislators? Are they doing such a damn bang-up job that now is the time for them to be spending $700 or $1 billion on this nonsense? You can't get checks to people on the damn EDD. You force people into unemployment. You can't get them checks, but you're going to build yourselves a nice big-ass office building. What the hell? At the very least, the project should be put on hold for a couple years while things settle down. It's just a perfect example of how they are completely disconnected. Yeah, we'll build a posh new office building for ourselves. It'll look great, all modern. I'm sure it will. But you know what? With 20% of Californians unemployed, I think y'all can live in crappy offices for a couple more years. If we have to suffer, you can't have an office that's, little old, little dingy for a couple more years. Where is this disconnect? But there is hope. For the second time this summer, I got to spend an afternoon talking to high school students. And I want to thank the students over at Mira Loma High for inviting me, representatives of the Green Party, the Peace and Freedom Party, the Democrats and Republicans. We got to go in there and we got to have a conversation about our party's philosophy with some high school students. It was a great experience for me because it wasn't about politics. I got to put politics aside and just talk political philosophy for a few minutes about why we think the way we do. And sure, we talk issues, but wrapped up in those issues was all philosophy. I got to be reminded that my philosophy is based upon fundamental human rights. The fundamental right of an individual to have self-determination, to be in control of their own body. The rights of families to care about themselves and future generations. The rights of individual communities to dictate how they want to live, the lifestyle they want to have. And I was reminded that by protecting the rights of the individual, we by the very nature protect the rights of the group. And you got to see and listen to honest questions. Just because they didn't have any agenda, they just want to know. It was a beautiful thing. And it's the second time. And that happened because of my role as vice chair here in Sacramento County. And so, participating, I don't care what party you belong to or not, finding a way to participate in the political process is important. If you have an hour a month, find an hour a month. If you have a half hour a month, find a half hour a month. Because sadly, politics has intervened into far too many aspects of our lives. But we can't change that without intervening into politics. Now, you can elect people like me, and we can go down to the Capitol that way, and we can argue, we can discuss, and we can try to make the world a better place. What I can do, if elected, is bring transparency to that damn place. I don't need any party help for that. I don't need, power structure to force them to be more transparent. I just have to do it. And then you as voters will start expecting it. And if they give me too much hell, there's a benefit to living in the district where the Capitol resides. You guys can join me every morning on the way to work. So there are things we can do that other districts can't. But I need you. I need you to vote for me. And I need you to tell people about me. Don't tell them to vote for me. Tell them to go check me out. I don't need you to do the sell job. I just need you to point them in my direction. We've avoided a lot of the political traps. And join us tomorrow, because I think tomorrow I'm going to sit here and explain. We'll go through the whole process of why I've run the way I have, the political strategy, how we got here, how COVID changed things, and how we adapted, and what mistakes we've made along the way. But it should be an interesting conversation, because you're not going to hear it anywhere else. No one else will tell you why you make decisions, political strategy decisions. And we've explained a lot of it over the course of the summer, but we've never sat down and given the whole thought process. But I will, because I'll be transparent when others won't. That's all I can promise, because I will promise nothing that I can't deliver. And all I can deliver is my effort and transparency. I can guarantee those two things. So I'm going to close this out, I'm going to take a bit from my late night podcast. We get through this time, this fractured time where our societies are fracturing, our communities are fracturing, even our families are starting to fracture. Our friendships are starting to fracture. I read a story yesterday about someone who lost a close friend of 12 years because of who they supported for president. And that's sad, because politics shouldn't be that important. Not in our daily lives. In our everyday lives, politics shouldn't matter. But we can get through it with love. And that's a choice that we all make. Regardless of politics, regardless of your political positions, you can make the choice to love. Because love is the only thing that can cure hate. And there's far too much hate in the world. Anyway, thank you for your time. Good night. And please remember to love everybody.